all, I'm Jayapalashri from Samskara Healing. This is my third episode on the topic of Ravana, and I welcome you all. I hope you all are doing fine, and as I promised that there's going to be a series of episodes coming up, this is my third episode pertaining to Ravana. Earlier I spoke about the 10 aspects, which are the 10 faces, and I don't want to keep repeating them. Whether it's your lust, greed, anger, etc., etc. And then I also spoke about, yesterday I spoke about how we perceive Ravana as the bad person. Today I would like to address and talk about Ravana with an aspect and perception of being good. From the time I was requested to speak about Ravana and to and also say something about him, I not only read up and researched on Ravana, I also started speaking to my students. And I must tell you, they all were a powerhouse, filled with knowledge, all about Ravana. I think I was expecting some kind of a debate, some kind of a conversation where they would have resistance, but they all turned to me, and the one thing that they all said, which was common, which I totally agree with and I know which is true, and I agree with, in sense I would resonate and reciprocate with it. The same sentence is, he was a learned scholar. Ravana was a learned scholar, and he was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. This is something everybody speaks about, okay? And today I would like to talk about that. A demon. He's only known as a demon. When we look at his parents, his father was sage Vishrava. His father was sage Vishrava, and mother was the demon Kaikeshi. And if you really look at it, Ravana was the great-grandson of Lord Rama. So there was a lineage which included and gave him the strength to be a scholar. It is not something that someone could easily get, someone who could just pick up something like that and start talking. So we see the bad aspects and we only consider the bad aspects, and we do not want to acknowledge the good aspects. And this is something that happens in our day-to-day life too. We look at a person may have many good qualities and there could just be one bad quality. Maybe the person is short-tempered, maybe the person is cannot keep up to commitments, and you would only pick on that and put a label. And here we have forgotten that there is also a good part of him which we can actually acknowledge and we can address and also learn. Why is it that we need to only learn the bad aspects and acknowledge the bad aspects? Why can't we look at the good aspects and say, why can't I be a scholar? Why can't I look at doing good? Why can't I look at bringing a change? It's difficult. It's very difficult to acknowledge and very difficult to speak about. So one of the best thing is, he was an excellent Veena player. It was amazing the way he played the Veena. He was an ardent Shiva Bhakt, and his devotion to Lord Shiva is known. There are many stories pertaining to it. One such story is where he went and lifted Mount Kailash, and he wanted to move Mount Kailash to Lanka so that Lord Shiva is with him always, because Lord Shiva refused to move. And how Lord Shiva just put his little toe and pressed the Mount Kailash down, and he got crushed, and how he sang the Shiva Tandava with him crushed with his arms stuck in Mount Kailash. This is something everybody's spoken about. Shiva Tandava is something that all of us have heard here, and this was sung by Ravana. Do we acknowledge him? No. But we are ready to condemn and say that he was a bad man. I mean, yes, he was a powerful ruler. Yes, he was the ruler of Lanka, and he was known as Lankeshwar, Lankapati. There were many names given to him, like Dashanan, which because he had the 10 heads. So like that he had many names, which was titles given to him. But whatever was given to him, let's not forget that he was an excellent administrator. He was excellent with his skills. He was excellent with everything. He was a scholar who knew the Vedas, the Upanishads. Lord Shiva asked and requested him to compile everything together, which he did for Lord Shiva, because he was such an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva. He did everything that was asked of him to be done. Once when Goddess Parvati, she wanted a palace to be built, and she was tired of this kind of life, living in the forest and in the, in this difficult things, and she wanted to again get back into living in the palace. And she requested Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva asked Ravana, who also knew how to do these things, if he could build the palace for them. When Lord Shiva asked Ravana was more than happy to do it for his beloved god and deity, who he worshipped ardently. He went about building the golden palace, which is the Swarna Mahal. When he started building, he called in Vishwakarma. He got in Kubera. Kubera also happens to be Ravana's brother. He called in Kubera, and he asked Kubera to help him, and Kubera gave him that much of gold. And then he called Vishwakarma, who helped in building the palace. When the palace was ready, a beautiful, magnificent golden palace, Ravana decided to ask for his fees. And the fees was he wanted to stay there worshipping Lord Shiva. And I think if you look at it, Lord Shiva really did not want to stay in the palace, and he just did this to, please his wife. But he knew that Ravana would have this kind of a thing, and true to the fact, Ravana said that, give me the palace. And Lord Shiva happily gave it to him, saying, this is yours. And that is how he got Lanka. But in the process, Nandi got very upset that Ravana did this after building such a beautiful palace and hurt his lord. So he cursed him, saying that your palace is going to get destroyed by a monkey. And true to the fact, Hanuman, when he went there to, request Ravana to release Sita Mata from the Ashoka Vatika, he refused, and he condemned him, saying, you're a monkey and you just need to go from here. And Hanuman grew tall, his tail grew, and we all know the story where the tail was lit on fire and he lit the entire Lanka on fire. So, yes, he was an ardent devotee. Yes, he was an amazing scholar. But yes, he did have his own flaws. But I'm not going to get into the flaws today. I'm more keen on talking about the good aspects today, because already 2 days I've only spoken about the flaws. So it's very easy to label a person. It's very easy to say, he did this and this is it. I don't want to talk about it. He's bad. He's done this, and there's the label put. Have you forgotten that he's a scholar? Have you forgotten that he was an ardent devotee of Lord Shiva? So there are so many aspects which is forgotten. You also forgotten that he's a Brahmin son. So like that, we tend to forget the good when we see the bad. And then you don't want to acknowledge the bad. We get stuck. We live in the illusion that we are not supposed to accept the bad, but you're not ready to acknowledge the good. And that is something that happens to all of us. And if you recollect, when I ended my yesterday's session, I very clearly said, have you thought of the Ravans in our society? Have you seen? There are many Sitas who keep getting abducted. What are we doing about that? How are we putting an end to it? Can we acknowledge the Ravans within us? Why did I say that? In healing terminology, there's something called the shadow self. And the shadow self is that part of you which we refuse to accept and acknowledge. And if we see Ravana as the demon, there's that part of us which we never acknowledge and accept. We hide it, we suppress it, and we push it away. And that is projected out into the world. And we have many such people projecting. And exactly what the story says. That, you kill one demon, and from the blood of that one demon, there are so many demons born. Like the Rakta Bij. So like that. So here, of course, I'm talking about Ravana, but nevertheless, I'm addressing the topic of demon. So when we are not able to acknowledge and we're not able to address the bad part, how are we going to acknowledge the good parts? So I just spoke a little today, talking about his ardent love for his Lord Shiva and the way he sang the Shiva Tandava, or the way he built the palace for his Lord. I will give more talks tomorrow on the same. And you know what I love the most is, as I'm giving the conversations, I'm getting more and more feedback of what to be talking about and what to be addressing, and I'm picking on exactly those topics and I'm talking at the very moment. So waiting to hear from you again. What would you want me to talk tomorrow? What is it, that one thing that you want me to pick up on, discuss as I speak about Ravana tomorrow too? Do let me know, and it'll help me prepare before I come on to my live session. And until tomorrow, I wish you well. Have a wonderful day. Hope you all are staying safe and taking care. Lots of love, light and blessings. Thank you so much.